Some photos weren't meant to survive, let alone be seen. Hidden away in archives, banned from publication, or quietly buried by governments, these images reveal the raw, unfiltered side of history that textbooks never dared to show. Each one freezes a moment the world found too disturbing, too shocking, or simply too real. From forgotten tragedies to unsettling coincidences, these photos pull back the curtain on humanity's darkest corners. Brace yourself as we go over these 50 banned photos you can't unsee once you see them. Number 50. 19th century psychiatric practices. Germany, 1890. An era when the walls of psychiatric institutions echoed not with healing, but with punishment disguised as care. One of the most disturbing methods was forcing patients to remain upright in a crucifix-like position for hours, sometimes longer. Doctors believed the posture subdued unruly minds, though in reality it only deepened trauma and exhaustion. Locked in cold rooms, patients endured treatment shaped more by fear than understanding. These practices remind us how far mental health care has evolved and how deeply society once misunderstood the human mind. And yet, history rarely stays quiet, because the next incident shows how cruelty can also erupt in public, shocking an entire nation. Number 49. Manson Motor Lodge Incident. In 1964, at the height of the United States civil rights struggle, the Manson Motor Lodge in Florida became the stage for an unforgettable act of hatred. During a peaceful swim-in, manager James Brock marched to the poolside and poured muriatic acid into the water where black activists were swimming, hoping to force them out. The image of acid splashing into a public pool traveled across the nation, sparking outrage and accelerating momentum behind the Civil Rights Act of 1964. What Brock saw as defiance, the world saw as courage, and injustice laid bare. Moments like these reshaped American law, even as others found themselves forced into the spotlight simply because of how they looked like the next figure on our list. Number 48. Stefan Browski, the Lion Man. Stefan Browski, often billed as the Lion Man, was born with hypertrichosis, a rare condition causing thick, full-body hair growth that transformed his appearance into something both mesmerizing and misunderstood. Early 20th century circuses capitalized on this, presenting him as a spectacle of nature. Yet, beyond the stage lights, Browski shattered expectations. He spoke several languages, read classical literature, and carried himself with a refined wit that surprised anyone who bothered to look past the fur. His charisma made him a favorite among audiences and performers alike. Browski's life remains one of the most fascinating examples of how humanity often misjudges what it cannot categorize. Number 47. Sneaky Jaguar. In this haunting photograph, a jaguar approaches a man from behind with a silent, predatory grace. The man's partner stands nearby, weapon drawn, prepared for danger but unaware of how quickly it would strike. Jaguars are known for explosive bursts of power, and in this moment, instinct moved faster than human reaction. The attack was swift, giving the men only seconds to comprehend what was happening before tragedy unfolded. And while this encounter ended in devastation, the next case is even more chilling. Number 46. Regina K. Walters, cruelly photographed by her killer. Regina K. Walters' final moments were captured in a single horrifying photograph taken by Robert Ben Rhodes, a serial killer known as the Truck Stop Killer. In 1990, he abducted Regina and her boyfriend Ricky Lee Jones during their planned trip toward Mexico. While Ricky was murdered earlier, Regina was held captive in Rhodes' semi-truck, which he had turned into a mobile torture chamber. The infamous photograph showing her terrified and cornered inside an Illinois barn reveals the moment before he strangled her. The image remains one of the most disturbing pieces of true crime evidence ever recorded. But the horror doesn't end here. Number 45. The Yearbook Horror. In April 1999, students at Columbine High School gathered for what should have been a harmless, cheerful yearbook photo. Among the smiling faces, in the top left corner, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold posed with fingers shaped like guns, an eerie, nearly prophetic gesture. Just days later, on April 20th, they carried out one of the deadliest school massacres in American history, killing 12 students and a teacher. And sometimes, tragedy strikes with no warning at all, like a selfie taken only minutes before disaster. Number 44. Beirut Bomb Selfie. A group of Lebanese teenagers smiled into a camera on an ordinary afternoon in Beirut, capturing a carefree moment of friendship. One of them, Mohammed Shar, stood at the center, unaware that these seconds would be his last. Shortly after the shutter clicked, a bomb detonated nearby, killing Muhammad and several friends instantly. The selfie, once a symbol of youth, became a silent witness to the fragility of life in a region accustomed to sudden violence. And as history shows, catastrophe doesn't always come from conflict. Sometimes it falls from the sky. Number 43. A Boeing crash. On a frigid January day in 1982, Air Florida Flight 90, a Boeing 737-22, struggled to lift off from Washington National Airport after ice had accumulated on its wings. Moments after takeoff, the aircraft collided with vehicles on the bridge linking Washington to Arlington, crushing cars before plunging into the icy Potomac River. 78 people lost their lives in the crash and its aftermath. Rescue efforts fought against freezing water and sinking wreckage, carving the event into aviation history as one of the most haunting winter disasters ever recorded. This takes us to an explosion that ripped through Beirut. Number 42. Young bride in catastrophic explosion. A young bride stood in her wedding gown, glowing with joy as cameras captured her on what she believed would be the happiest day of her life. But on August 4, 2020, as she posed in the streets of Beirut, a massive explosion erupted at the city's port. In an instant, her celebration turned into chaos as shockwaves shattered buildings, injured thousands, and destroyed entire neighborhoods. The haunting contrast between her radiant smile and the devastation that followed became one of the most iconic images of the Beirut blast. Number 41. Catherine Warburton. Catherine Warburton, a 29-year-old Australian tourist visiting Alaska's Anchorage Zoo, made a fateful decision on July 29, 1994. Ignoring warning signs and safety barriers, she leaned too close to the enclosure of Binky, a massive polar bear known for his unpredictable behavior. In an instant, Binky lunged, clamping down on her foot and causing severe injuries. The next day, the bear made international headlines when newspapers printed a photo of him proudly holding Catherine's bright red sneaker in his jaws. Number 40. Ukraine soldier on Russian landmine. In this striking image, a Ukrainian soldier charges across a chaotic battlefield, unaware he is just inches from a hidden Russian landmine in 2023. The tension in the picture almost seems frozen, one of those moments where destiny holds its breath. Seconds later, the landmine detonated, ripping through the ground and violently throwing him off his feet. The explosion caused catastrophic injuries and the immediate loss of his right leg, a reminder of how quickly war rewrites lives. And as haunting as this moment is, the next story plunges even deeper into wartime brutality, where rescue was impossible. Number 39. Sergeant Leonard Sifleet's ugly end. Sergeant Leonard Sifleet, a member of a World War II Special Forces unit, was captured during an operation in New Guinea, an unforgiving battleground known for its treacherous terrain and fierce resistance. This photograph shows him tied, exhausted, and moments away from execution by decapitation. Japanese forces often used beheading as a method of intimidation, leaving behind chilling images that still disturb historians today. Sifleet's final moments reflect the harsh reality soldiers faced when missions went wrong. No negotiations, no mercy, just the brutal weight of war settling in. Number 38. Off the tightrope. Karl Wallenda, renowned for his breathtaking tightrope performances, spent decades defying gravity above cheering crowds. But in March of 1978, at the age of 73, he attempted a daring walk in Puerto Rico, a stunt that would tragically become his last. Just moments before his fatal fall from a 121-foot height, this image captures him steady, focused, and unaware that a slight misstep would end a legendary career. Wenda had always believed that age was no barrier to artistry, but time has a way of testing even the greatest performers. And as tragic as his final act was, the next story shows how quickly life can end even during an everyday moment. Number 37, Last Snapshot. 17-year-old Andrei Retrovsky posed casually for a photo, unaware that he was capturing the final seconds of his life. Friends later recalled that nothing seemed unusual, just a teenager enjoying a moment with the city skyline behind him. But only 10 seconds after the shutter clicked, Andrei slipped from the edge of the building and fell, his life ending instantly. His story has since been used as a warning about rooftop photography. And while Andrei's death was accidental, the next tragedy stemmed from a wild animal whose instincts could not be controlled. Number 36. Siegfried and Roy Tiger. Tragedy. During a 2003 Las Vegas performance, the world-famous duo Siegfried and Roy dazzled an audience until one of their beloved white tigers suddenly turned on Roy Horn. In an instant, the show transformed from spectacle to chaos as the tiger clamped onto Roy's neck and dragged him across the stage. The attack left Roy with severe injuries, partial paralysis, and a lifetime of medical complications. Their long-running act, an iconic piece of Las Vegas entertainment, ended that night, marking the collapse of an era built on illusion, trust, and dangerous beauty. And in the next entry, danger returns in a setting where mastery over nature was supposed to be second nature. Number 35. Ali Khan Samsudin's Cobra Attack. Ali Khan Samsudin, Malaysia's famed king of snakes, had built a reputation on fearlessness. He performed heart-stopping acts, often surrounded by dozens of venomous cobras, relying on years of experience and uncanny calm. But in 2006, during one of his routines, a cobra struck faster than he could react. The venomous bite proved fatal, cutting short the life of a man who had spent decades thrilling audiences. And from a performer betrayed by his craft, we shift to a darker betrayal, one committed by someone meant to be trusted. Number 34. Bitter Ex. Jolie Callan joined her ex-boyfriend Lauren Bunner for what was supposed to be a peaceful hike in Chia State Park, Alabama, on August 30, 2015. The photo he took of her, smiling, unaware, framed by rugged cliffs, would later become chilling evidence. Moments after the picture, Bunner pushed Jolie off a 40-foot cliff, ending her life in an act of calculated violence. Investigators later discovered that he had planned the murder, masking it as a tragic accident. And from a crime born out of betrayal, we move next to a hero whose final moments were spent saving others. Number 33. Thailand Cave Rescue. This photograph captures former Thai Navy SEAL Saman Gunan just before he embarked on the rescue operation that captivated the world in 2018. 12 boys and their coach were trapped deep within the Tam Luang cave system, surrounded by rising floodwaters and shrinking oxygen supplies. Gunan volunteered to deliver essential tanks through narrow, pitch-black passages. Tragically, he lost consciousness on the return journey and died inside the cave, becoming one of the rescue's greatest heroes. Number 32. The Hawker Hunter jet failed. During the Shoreham Air Show in the United Kingdom on August 22, 2015, spectators watched in anticipation as a Hawker Hunter jet climbed into a looping maneuver. But something went horribly wrong. The aircraft failed to complete the loop and plummeted downward, crashing onto the A27 highway. Multiple vehicles were struck, killing 11 people and injuring many more. Miraculously, the pilot survived, though the incident changed the aviation world. The disaster led to major reforms in airshow safety regulations, emphasizing stricter stunt approval and flight paths. Number 31. Little James Bulger. In this heartbreaking image from 1993, 2-year-old James Bulger walks hand in hand with a 10-year-old boy inside a shopping mall near Liverpool. What appeared to be an innocent moment turned into one of the most disturbing crimes in United Kingdom's history. Hours later, James was abducted, tortured, and murdered by the two boys, who were themselves only children. The case shocked the world, not only for its brutality but for the age of the perpetrators. The photo became tragically iconic, symbolizing innocence betrayed in the most unimaginable way. Number 30. Japanese kamikaze aircraft. This striking image captures the split second before a Japanese kamikaze aircraft spirals toward an American warship during World War II, an attack strategy driven by desperation and nationalism. Kamikaze pilots were often young men told their sacrifice would protect Japan's future, making every mission both tragic and revealing. In the same frame, a B-24 Liberator bomber is shown moments after being torn apart by German anti-aircraft fire, flames trailing as it plummets to the ground. The next story shows another man who dared to challenge the air, this time from atop a Parisian icon. Number 29. Franz Reichelt's Curious Fall. Franz Reichelt, an eccentric French tailor and inventor, believed he had designed a wearable parachute suit that would revolutionize aviation safety. Confident in his creation, in 1912 he chose the Eiffel Tower as his testing ground, a spectacle that drew crowds and reporters. Moments before stepping off the first platform, he appeared calm, even proud. But when he leapt, the parachute failed to open, sending him plunging 187 feet to his death. Autopsy reports later revealed that he suffered a heart attack mid-fall, meaning he died before hitting the ground. His story became both cautionary and legendary. Number 28. President John F. Kennedy. This iconic photograph shows President John F. Kennedy's motorcade driving down Main Street on November 22, 1963, surrounded by cheering crowds and waving flags. Just minutes later, as the car turned onto Elm Street, shots rang out, striking the president and plunging the nation into mourning. Number 27. Oklahoma City bombing. This chilling image captures Timothy McVeigh standing near a rental truck packed with explosives, moments before the Oklahoma City bombing on April 19, 1995. The resulting explosion tore through the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, killing 168 people, including 19 children, and injuring hundreds more. It was the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in United States history at the time, shattering the illusion that such devastation could only come from foreign threats. And as horrifying as this attack was, the next entry captures a moment where violence unfolded live on national television. Number 26. Otoya Yamaguchi strikes politician Inajiro Asanuma. This photograph freezes the exact moment Otoya Yamaguchi, a 17-year-old ultranationalist, attacked socialist politician Inajiro Asanuma with a traditional samurai blade in Tokyo in 1960. Yamaguchi rushed the stage during a televised debate and plunged the blade into Asanuma before attempting a second strike. Security subdued him, but the attack shocked Japan and ignited nationwide debates about political extremism. The image became one of the most famous political photographs ever taken. And from political violence, we shift to a tragedy involving someone who had barely begun her career. Number 25. Ashley Guindon on her first day of service. This photograph shows Officer Ashley Guindon smiling proudly on her first day with the Prince William County Police Department in Virginia, 2016. Her career began with excitement and promise, but tragedy struck only hours later. Responding to a domestic violence call, Ashley walked into a scene that escalated instantly. Ronald Hamilton had already murdered his wife Crystal and opened fire on officers, killing Ashley and injuring 2 others. Hamilton was initially sentenced to death, but his penalty was later reduced to life without parole. Ashley's death became a stark reminder of the unpredictable dangers officers face, even on day one. And from her tragic first shift, we move to a pilot whose mission altered the course of world history. Number 24. Colonel Paul W. Tibbets, Jr. and Enola Gay. In this haunting image, Colonel Paul W. Tibbets, Jr. waves confidently from the cockpit of the Enola Gay, a Boeing B-29 bomber moments before he carried out one of the most consequential missions in history. On August 6, 1945, he dropped the atomic bomb over Hiroshima, unleashing unprecedented destruction. The event ended countless lives and reshaped global politics and warfare. Number 23. A rare moment of calm. This photograph captures Formula One legend Ayrton Senna in a quiet, reflective moment before the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix. Known for his fierce competitiveness and unmatched skill, Senna rarely displayed vulnerability. Yet here he appears unusually subdued, as if sensing the weight of the race ahead. Minutes later, he lost control of his car at high speed, crashing fatally into a concrete wall. His death sent shockwaves through the motorsport world, prompting major safety reforms that still protect drivers today. Senna's legacy remains powerful, inspiring generations of racers. Number 22. Sing Sing's Kiss of Shock. This haunting photograph shows a prisoner in the final moments before execution in the electric chair at Sing Sing Prison in New York. Overwhelmed by fear, he sits strapped to the wooden seat as witnesses look on from behind glass, observing the grim ritual. The electric chair, once considered a humane alternative to hanging, often delivered gruesome and prolonged deaths. Each execution was a spectacle, part justice system, part morbid theater. And speaking of disturbing displays, our next entry reveals how hate once masqueraded as entertainment. Number 21. A scene in Cannon City, Colorado. This photograph shows members of the Ku Klux Klan casually riding a Ferris wheel during a carnival in Cannon City, Colorado. An unsettling reminder of how normalized racism and white supremacy were in early 20th century America. Families attended these events, children laughed, and Klan robes blended into everyday life with shocking ease. The photograph underscores how deeply ingrained racial hatred was, not hidden in shadows, but paraded in broad daylight. It serves as a painful reminder that extremism often thrives when society looks the other way. And with that, the countdown continues, exposing more moments where history captured tragedy in a single frame. Number 20. A rare act during the era of segregation. In an era when segregation divided classrooms, neighborhoods, Albert Einstein made a quiet but powerful stand. His visit to Lincoln University, the first United States institution to grant degrees to black students, was far more than a polite academic gesture. Einstein didn't just lecture about physics. He sat with students, listened to their experiences, and openly condemned racism, calling it America's worst disease. For a world-famous scientist to say that in the 1940s was nothing short of radical. This photo freezes a moment when intellect met courage, and when a global icon used his voice to amplify others. Number 19. The Sky of Nagasaki. The sky above Nagasaki on August 9, 1945 ballooned into the infamous mushroom cloud, an image that still sends chills decades later. The Fat Man atomic bomb killed around 40,000 people instantly, wiping out neighborhoods in seconds and turning the city into a glowing wasteland. Survivors faced lifelong radiation injuries, burns, and unimaginable loss. The photo represents not only the end of World War II, but also the beginning of the nuclear age, a future humanity wasn't fully prepared to handle. The haunting beauty of the cloud hides the tragedy beneath it. Number 18. Hungarian Jews separated by Nazi soldiers. This image from the Auschwitz album captures Hungarian Jews just moments after stepping off the freight trains that transported them to the camp. Families were split apart instantly, men in one line, women and children in another. For many, this was the last time they would ever see each other. Most deemed unfit for work were sent straight to the gas chambers. Auschwitz became the central symbol of industrialized death, claiming the lives of 1.1 million people, the majority of them Jewish. Yet the cruelty of one nation was not the only horror of the era. Another continent faced its own nightmare. Number 17. Exploitation of Congo. In 1904, Insala sat before a camera holding the tiny remains of his daughter, her severed hand and foot, after Belgian soldiers punished him for not meeting his rubber quota. Under King Leopold II, the Congo Free State became a vast labor camp where forced rubber harvesting, executions, and amputations were routine. Experts estimate as many as 10 million Africans died between 1885 and 1908. This photograph helped expose the horrors of colonial rule to the world, transforming Insala's personal grief into global evidence. While Congo's suffering shook the world, another country would soon face its own reckoning behind prison walls. Number 16. A rebellion at Carandiru Prison. On October 2, 1992, Carandiru Prison in São Paulo erupted into chaos. What began as a dispute between inmates escalated into Brazil's deadliest prison massacre. When the riot squad stormed Cell Block 9, it wasn't a controlled intervention. It became an execution ground. By the end of the operation, 101 inmates were dead, most of them unarmed and surrendering. The haunting photo shows prisoners lined up in the courtyard, nearly naked, surrounded by heavily armed officers beneath a mural of the Virgin of Guadalupe, an eerie contrast between faith and brutality. The massacre forced Brazil to confront its failing justice system. But far from Brazil, another tragedy unfolded when a young traveler became entangled in political tensions. Number 15. Otto Warmbier. Otto Warmbier, a 21-year-old American student, was arrested in North Korea after being accused of stealing a propaganda poster. What was meant to be a brief study trip turned into a nightmare. Sentenced to 15 years of hard labor, Otto disappeared from the public eye for over a year. When he was finally returned to the United States in June 2017, he was in an irreversible coma, suffering severe brain damage. He died days later. The circumstances of his treatment remained disputed, but international outrage was immediate. His family eventually received compensation through frozen North Korean assets. The next tragedy, however, centered not on politics, but on a zoo enclosure that sparked worldwide debate. Number 14. The enclosure of Harambe. On May 2016, a 3-year-old boy slipped into the enclosure of Harambe, a 17-year-old silverback gorilla at the Cincinnati Zoo. What followed became one of the most controversial moments in recent internet history. Although Harambe showed no signs of aggression, the unpredictability of the situation pushed zookeepers to make a life-or-death decision. They chose to shoot Harambe to protect the child. The incident sparked global debate over animal welfare, parenting, and zoo safety. Yet the next image shows a moment where no one had the chance to intervene, and nature delivered its own deadly blow. Number 13. The last moments of Maksud Khan. At the Delhi Zoo in 2014, 20-year-old Maksud Khan found himself trapped inside a white tiger's enclosure after accidentally falling in. The crowd watched in horror as the tiger approached him. With no barriers between them and no tranquilizers immediately available, the situation escalated quickly. The tragedy later sparked conversations about zoo safety, enclosure design, and emergency response protocols. And speaking of tragic missteps, the next story follows an influencer who didn't realize danger was right beneath her feet. Number 12. Irina Glazunova. While vacationing in Tbilisi, Georgia, 24-year-old influencer Irina Glazunova posed for a video with the carefree excitement that social media often demands. Walking sideways while holding her friend's phone, she didn't notice the open entrance to a metro station right behind her. In seconds, she plunged 16 feet onto the hard floor below. Emergency responders rushed in, but her injuries, a severe skull fracture, were irreversible. The next photo honors a man whose final act was one of kindness. Number 11. Casey's selfless end. On May 2023, Casey Rivera, a California father of two, noticed a family of ducks struggling to cross a busy intersection. Without hesitation, he stepped into the road to help them reach safety. Drivers honked in support, and someone even snapped a photo of him smiling at the grateful animals. Moments later, an oncoming vehicle struck him, ending his life instantly. The community responded with heartfelt tributes, flowers, handwritten notes, and small rubber ducks, symbolizing his compassion. Number 10. Bear-to-bear witness. The hunters in this photo stand proudly beside the black bear they've taken down, unaware of the silent figure watching them from the shadows. Behind them, another bear, possibly a mate, a sibling, or even a curious guardian, peers through the trees. For the photographer, the moment must have been unnerving, as if the forest held its breath. And from the wilderness, we jump into a modern danger, one fueled by the quest for the perfect photo. Number 9. Xenia Ignatova. 17-year-old Xenia Ignatova loved the thrill of rooftop selfies, the kind that make your stomach flip just by looking at them. On this day, she climbed another high-rise, determined to capture a breathtaking shot. But seconds later, everything went wrong. She slipped, falling onto 1,500-volt power lines below. The tragedy shocked her community and spread worldwide, becoming a heartbreaking warning about the risks behind extreme photos. But Xenia wasn't the only one whose final moments were captured on camera. Another tragedy unfolded underwater. Number 8. Honeymoon horror. Tina and Gabe Watson had barely begun their honeymoon in Australia when Gabe suggested a scuba dive at the Great Barrier Reef, a place he claimed to know well. But beneath the shimmering water, the story darkened. Tina, inexperienced and anxious, struggled while Gabe swam away, leaving her behind. This photo shows her lying still on the ocean floor in her final moments, abandoned by the man who vowed to protect her. Investigations later raised disturbing questions about Gabe's actions, turning their honeymoon into one of the most controversial diving deaths in history. Number 7. Marriage proposal turned fatal. During a 2019 vacation in Tanzania, Steven Weber wanted to create a proposal his girlfriend would never forget. Staying in an underwater lodge, he swam outside the room's glass window and pressed a handwritten note against it, telling her he loved her and asking her to marry him. He smiled, holding the ring box proudly. But Steven miscalculated his oxygen. Before he could reach the surface, he ran out of air. The joyful moment transformed into heartbreak. His fiancée later shared the footage, turning the proposal into a global tragedy. Number 6. Omaha car bomb. In this seemingly innocent photo taken in Omaha, Northern Ireland in 1998, a young boy sits joyfully on his father's shoulders beside a parked car. The moment appears wholesome and peaceful until you learn the truth. Just minutes later, that same car detonated in one of the deadliest bombings of the Troubles. 29 people were killed, and more than 220 were injured. And while this attack shocked a nation, the next tragedy unfolded in an instant on the subway tracks of New York. Number 5. Ki-Suk Han's ghastly end. On December 3, 2012, 58-year-old Ki-Suk Han found himself in a heated argument with a man on a New York City subway platform. In the chaos, he was pushed onto the tracks. The haunting photo captures him desperately trying to climb out as a train approaches, its lights growing brighter with each second. Witnesses shouted, but help came too late. The image sparked nationwide discussions about bystander responsibility, mental illness, and the ethics of photographing tragedy instead of preventing it. In the next photo, the victim unknowingly recorded his own killer. Number 4. Ronaldo Dagsa captured his final moments. While celebrating New Year's in 2011, Filipino politician Ronaldo Dagsa snapped a picture of his family smiling in the street. Unbeknownst to him, the photo also captured a chilling figure in the background, a gunman aiming straight at him. Seconds after the shutter clicked, the assassin fired, ending Dagsa's life. The image became key evidence in identifying and arresting the shooter. And while this death was calculated, the next one was the result of cult-driven madness that shocked Hollywood. Number 3. Sharon Tate, Final Night. Sharon Tate, glowing, 8 months pregnant, and at the height of her rising Hollywood career, was photographed on August 8, 1969, unaware it would be her final night alive. Hours later, members of Charles Manson's cult broke into her Los Angeles home, brutally murdering her and 4 others. The photo radiates innocence and calm, making the horror that followed even more jarring. The next tragedy moves from Hollywood glamour to a mysterious hotel that still fascinates the internet. Number 2. The elevator of the Cecil Hotel tragedy. This eerie security footage shows 21-year-old Elisa Lam in the Cecil Hotel elevator just moments before her disappearance. Her behavior, pressing multiple buttons, hiding, stepping in and out, sparked endless theories and online debates. Weeks later, her body was discovered inside the hotel's rooftop water tank after guests complained of low water pressure and discolored water. The case became one of the internet's most infamous mysteries, blending mental health concerns, urban legends, and the hotel's dark reputation. And now, we arrive at the final image, one of the most devastating in human history. Number 1. The atomic cloud over Nagasaki. This haunting photograph captures the towering atomic cloud rising over Nagasaki on August 9, 1945. Moments after the picture was taken, the immense shockwave reached the photographer. The blast obliterated the city below, killing tens of thousands instantly and leaving countless others suffering from radiation burns and long-term effects. The photo remains one of the most sobering reminders of the destructive power humans are capable of unleashing. Do you think these photos should have stayed hidden, or did the world need to see them? What's your take on this? Share your perspective in the comments section.